Howdy, Desert Boy here. I just want to take a minute to talk a little bit about 32 caliber because I think it's overlooked oftentimes, especially the old school ones for revolvers, the 32 Smith and Wesson long and the 32 Smith and Wesson, often called the short. People are a little more familiar with 32 ACP because, there's been Beretta and some people have made guns made for the semi-autos, and it's a different cartridge. But for the revolver ones, the 32 Smith and Wesson long and the 32 Smith and Wesson short, have been around since the early 20th century, maybe even into the late 1800s. But they were really, in the early 20th century, civilians and police both used those revolvers, 6 rounds, most of the time, like the I-frame, third model hand ejector that you'll see, and the model 733 from H&R and Harrington and Richardson. So they're just, they fire the 32 Smith and Wesson long, and like I said, in the 32 Smith and Wesson short. There's been some resurgence in 32, but that's a completely different set of 32s that are much more powerful and are really not designed for those rounds are not designed for these firearms. There's special guns that people make nowadays, like the 327 Federal Magnum, and then both Ruger and Smith and Wesson make 32s that will fire the 32 H&R Magnum, which are completely different rounds and have nothing to do with these older guns. So as Desert Boy always says, be safe out there, whatever you're doing. Bye now. Desert Boy here. So I was just talking about my I-frame in one of my other videos, and just if you're wondering how I've been carrying that, I've been carrying it in this DeSantis Gunhide Fleck 2.0, I think that's how it's said, holster, and I have, as you can see, this is my Smith and Wesson third model hand ejector in 32, right? Gives me 6 rounds of Smith and Wesson long, and it slides right into this holster. Yeah, the barrel does stick out a little bit because this is made for a snubby, but it also, in case you didn't know, 32s have speed strips too. Now you notice these here, normally I use wad cutters, right? In my full wad cutters in my 32. I think these happen to be Fiocchi ones, and they're about 100 grain if I remember right. But when it comes to reloading, if you've ever used a speed strip with full wad cutters on it, they don't go into the cylinders very well. So usually then you'll need some kind of lead or lead jacketed type bullet, something that's a little pointier, so it'll go in there. But the nice thing is you got this 2x2x2 ammo carrier right there that carries that. So it does give you a way to carry it comfortably. I do have the original holster for this gun right here. I'm not used to using a flap, but as you can see, this has been, and it says Vancouver on it. So I'm not quite sure if it's like Vancouver, Washington, probably. Could be Canada or something like that. And it's something like V. Strauss or something like that, I think. So it's a nicely made holster. It's just seen a lot of wear. Now for my other 32, I do have this H&R Model 733. Nice. It's got this kind of, I don't know if that's chrome or nickel finish. I think it's chrome. And this one opens by pulling you have to pull the cylinder pin. And it's also, as we could see, it's also empty. And it holds 6 rounds as well. And it's just a little bit different kind of gun. And it just happens Then my Blade Tech J-frame holster seems to fit this pretty well. So just a couple of ways to carry some, some lighter loads. It's made mainly for close-in defense, and I also carry wad cutters in that usually. But, you got to make your own decisions about that. And with any of these carries, again, you want to make sure you're in compliance with all your local, state, and federal firearms laws, ordinances, permitting, training, and so forth, that you're in full compliance. So I just want to add that because of what we're talking about. So very comfortable, as is this one. Even though this isn't inside the waistband, it's still pretty comfortable. This gun's a little heavier than the other one, or it sure feels like it. So as Desert Boy always says, be safe out there, whatever you're doing. Bye now.